Good evening, everyone. Thank you for staying put, even when you saw my name pop up on the screen and you thought, who's this scrawny little blonde kid? I appreciate you all being here, and I'm, of course, going to talk to you about property investing today. First of all, I'm going to be really irritating, and I'm going to say, can I get you all to just stand up? It's very quickly. If everyone could just stand up. I've got two questions for you today. This is partly for myself, for a data point of view. I want to see who's in the room. So first of all, if you could remain standing, if at some point in your life, whether it's up until now or in the future, intend to invest in property. That's pretty good, that's what I was hoping. And number two, this isn't to sort of show off or anything, but if you own a property or an investment property, if you could remain standing. Anyone else sit down? Interesting. Good. Okay, good. Thank you for that, everyone. You can carry on and sit down now. The main reason I wanted to do that is, as I say, for me, from a data aspect, I want to see who is in the room. And I also just want to say there is a huge opportunity in front of you right now, particularly with a lot of you earning some pretty good money, to invest into property as a passive income, because right now you're doing a lot of active income, but we've got to think about the future. So right now, there is currently a UK population of 67 million people. Well, that's in 2020, and I believe there still is. And there's currently also 24 million properties or dwellings, single dwellings. And out of that, there is just 2.65 million landlords. Although that does sound quite a lot, it's actually not. There's a huge opportunity for you to get into this market. What it does say really is that the landlords that are out there probably own quite big portfolios. What you tend to see is someone might have one or two properties as a buy-to-lets, and then they give up, or they think that's enough. Or you find landlords who have got 30, 40, 50 houses, and that sounds a lot, but I meet a lot of people that have done that and have built that. So today's session, I'm going to give you a quick overview. It's very slide heavy, but I want to give back and actually hope that you enjoy and maybe go away having learned something. So first of all, we're going to talk about why should you invest in property. Then we're going to look at what investing strategies are there. Then how much money you'll need to get started and what you can do to get started this week. So a bit about me, just very quickly, before we go into those things. As I've mentioned, I'm a scrawny kid, but I do, in fact, go to the gym. I share your passion for gym and fitness, just maybe not on the same level, as you can see. But I started off in property about 5 years ago, and really my love and passion for property came through my grandfather and my parents, who were heavily into property. But I had not a poor upbringing, nor a rich upbringing, but quite a fairly average one. And what I would say is that my parents looked after me well, and they said that, go out there and do what you want to do, but with no expectation, which is a pretty good thing considering I went off and became an estate agent. So from there, I would say that, my passion for property built, but being an estate agent doesn't really put you in good stead to actually becoming a property investor. So I did eventually leave that, went into a more typical job just so I had time in order to do and focus on my property investing. But overall, as I said, my passion comes from, my granddad was a property developer. He did unfortunately lose all his money in the 90s recession, and growing up I was very much accustomed to hearing those conversations, which one thing I'll mention to you today is to remember that markets always cycle, and that's something he experienced and I've grown up learning. I did, previous to property, actually start a clothing business because I was going to use this as a cash flow model, and I was going to funnel that into property. If you've heard of Shore Fitness, great, I did my job. If you haven't, then it's probably because I didn't have much money and I bootstrapped it. But I did that business for a few years. It became, relatively successful, I would say, but not to the point where enough where I could do that full time and, as I put all my money into property. Got to a level where actually I needed to either invest a huge amount or part ways with it, sell it like I did, and invest that into property. But yeah, it was a really good experience, learned a lot from it. Now I am a property investor, and my actual the way I buy property is something called the buy, refurbish, refinance model. So I buy a shithole, as you can see there, which no one else would want to live in. I spend some relatively good money on it, and then I make it look fairly pretty, and I'll refinance it at the end. Unlike Davey here earlier, who builds incredible, lovely homes and sells them on, I try to hold on to them. There is no better or worse way of doing things, but this for me is a way of building passive income over my lifetime, so that when I do come to retire and sit on a beach, that I've got these tenants hopefully paying my way, paying for my cigars and my lean whiskies. I am also a YouTuber. I'm one of those, sadly. But it's been a really useful tool for me to meet people, to really be here tonight as well. If you go away from today and you think, yeah, this guy's, he's okay, don't mind him, then please head over and watch the videos, because you might be able to learn some stuff from some of these. And last of all, this is what I do in my day-to-day. I'm property sourcer and mentor. So I help source properties for people, and I also help mentor beginners, anyone that's looking to get that first 1 or 2 buy-to-lets. So, why should you invest in property? Other than this terrible photo, and for the love of good cars, really, where you are right now, you're in a place where a lot of you are earning good money, and although it doesn't seem like it, at some point, I'm sad to say, a bit morbid, you might get to a point where you have an injury, or you actually burn out, possibly. Hopefully, obviously, we never let that happen. But it happens to the best of us, and if that does ever happen in your lifetime, or if you have an injury and, as I say, you can't work, you might want some income on the side, because, as I've mentioned, you're kind of earning active income right now. And what it's really good to do is invest that into passive and have them both ticking along together. So on top of that, if you don't invest, then there will come a time where you want to retire. And this is what you're left with. What is a wonderful state pension of £179 per week, which I don't know about anyone in here. I think it's fairly safe to say that for me, that will just about, my food or shopping bill comes in a bit under that each week, and which is it's just terrible. So we need to actually invest into something, whether it's property or not, in order to build for our future. Now, when I say the word investment, we might also think about things such as crypto, stocks and shares, which I'm not taking anything away from. They are very good investments. However, I fucking love property. It's a tool, it's an asset, it's something we can actually reach out and touch, rather than something that's out there on a digital currency or digital money, which is a great investment tool. There is a lot of money to be made there. But I personally believe in the power of a real asset that I can buy, I can hold on to for life, and I can rent that out for passive income on the side, so I can earn cash flow from it. So, if we do like property, and you've grown up with property, being that your parents are probably from the baby boomer phase, you might have heard phrases such as safe as houses, or property prices double every 10 years, which to an extent is more or less true. If you'd bought a property in 1976 for approximately £4,000 or £5,000, sat on it all the way until 2014, it'd have been worth just under £190,000, which is a pretty good investment, I would say. And if you kind of think, well, that is the baby boomer phase, my parents had it easy, they had it lucky, which they did. We are still living in a time which you can make a lot of money for a property. So 2005 to 2021, you can clearly see there is still an upward trajectory in terms of prices. So maybe they're not going up as fast, but they're still going up at a good enough rate that it's worth investing in, because as you can see, it's going up as well as you earning rent on the side. So if property is so good, why doesn't everyone do it? Cash. Money. Sadly, property is quite cash intensive. The average UK house price for July 2021 was £256,000, which for a lot of us, if we bought as a home with a 10% deposit, would only be about 25k, and 25k, that's fairly manageable. But as a buy-to-let, you'll mainly be looking to put down 25%, so 64 grand. If you want to go away and buy 10 properties to replace your income, your expenses, well, 640 grand sounds quite a lot of money to have to save up. But there's other ways around it, so don't worry, we'll get into that. But it's just to give you an example that property prices are high right now, but there is still opportunity in this market, even though it seems like it's just not possible to get in. And 2 reasons why all of you sitting here have an advantage as well. First of all, you have cash flow. Elliot and the guys have done a fantastic job in helping you build and systemize these businesses, make good money, and I'm told that you've got fairly good bank balances, and that will certainly help you get into the property market. And number 2, a little big-headed, but this presentation, I think hopefully you will learn something from this, and you'll be able to take something from today as you guys, mentor your students or mentor people that work with you to get fitter, stay accountable. I think I can help pass some knowledge off to you today in the same way. So just a quick thing, time versus money. A lot of you might have seen this, but again, this is I've said a few things several times already. Active income versus passive income. If you have an active income, like an online business, like you do, this is the best possible tool to invest in property. A lot of people come to me with no business, no money, and they say, I want to invest in property. I say, great, you're going to have an upward battle. For you guys, you have an online business. So as you can see, the blue line is time, the gold line is your money. As you start off, you have put in a fairly good amount of hours, and then as your income starts to quite quickly go up and increase, you're able to keep your time fairly level because of the way you're systemizing your businesses. With property, it's the other way around. You have to put an incredible amount of time and effort in at the beginning. You have to do viewings, make offers, and then even when you have an offer accepted, you have to wait to actually purchase a property, which is never-ending and painful. But then eventually, when you get that property, you put the tenant in the property, and all of a sudden, your time, your effort comes down quite quickly, and it will sit, hopefully, fairly passive. And as you build your portfolio, each time it will come down, your time will come down after you've rented the property out, yet your money will slowly increase over time. And by doing this, as I said, you've got an online business, you're actively earning money right now, so why not take that at this point and start investing into your future? Invest once, get paid forever. So a few unique properties about property. You can 4 times, you can leverage your money 4 times. So if you were to go out and buy 100 grand's worth of cryptocurrency, well, you've got to put 100 grand into it. If you want to buy 100 grand worth of property, you only have to put £25,000 in. So it's nice that you can leverage your money, and it's worth doing because over time, money devalues. So why not use the bank's money to do so? If they're going to give you 75%, take their money, you utilise their money, and over time, the bank's money will devalue, the house price will go up, and you build more equity into that equation. Obviously, property cash flows, you hope for capital appreciation, and if you buy a property for 100,000, it goes up to 150,000 in a few years, and you decide, I think I might want to refinance that money out, I might buy a nice Rolls Royce, I might go on holiday, or whatever it is you might want to do, you don't have to pay tax on that refinance, which I think is quite unique. You will, of course, pay tax when you come to sell the property, capital gains tax, but at that time, you're relieving your money out anyway because you're selling the house. So that, for me, is quite a unique part of property as well. So just quickly ask yourself these questions. What are your monthly outgoings? And how much money can you live off of? Okay, so you're earning really good money now, but if you had to bank a lot of that, and if you just had to work out what your expenses are, think of those in your head. Do you need £3,000 a month? If so, you might just be looking at 10 buy-to-lets. I know it sounds like a big number, but actually 10 buy-to-lets is incredibly achievable. Are you looking at £5,000 a month? If so, you might split the strategy a bit more. You might build a foundation of 5 buy-to-lets. Maybe you might do 3 HMOs. HMOs are great for cash flow, as we'll come on to talk about. So, what are the different types of property strategy? I split these up into 3 columns. There's an awful lot of strategies. I think today mainly we're focusing on buy-to-lets and HMOs from what I've been told and from what you guys are interested in, but I'll quickly run through. So on the left is if someone would come to me with no money. You have to do something which is almost like building a cash flow business. As I've said, you guys are fortunate, you've built those for yourselves already. If you've got the middle section, £10,000 to £50,000 in savings, you might be looking at single-let buy-to-lets, you might be looking at small HMOs, service accommodation, or even doing flips, so buy-to-sell, just where you buy a property, you add value, and then you sell it within a 6 to 9 month window. Last of all, with 50,000, you can do bigger projects, big HMOs, you can buy portfolios, and you can do all of what I've said before as well. You might even look to go into new builds like Davey did. If you're sitting here and you're wondering as well, which should I do? Which is best for me? I've split it out for you. So you're probably, again, looking at that middle or right-hand column where you're looking at maybe the best of both worlds, which is cash flow and capital appreciation, okay? And then I will give up the shapes in a minute. We've gone circle, we've gone triangle, but this is the kind of pyramid you might look to build a portfolio off of. You might start with buy-to-lets, flips, and then you might work your way up the value ladder, really. So, the higher up you go, the more time, the more experience it might take, and also the more risk and the more costs it might have for you as well. But certainly, buy-to-lets are a very good and safe and hands-off way of getting into things. And then, as I say, you might look to move on to HMO further down. So I didn't know how far to bring this back, actually. I'm sure a lot of you know what a buy-to-let is, so I won't be ridiculous. But this is a buy-to-let. This is actually my first buy-to-let. This is a property in Liverpool, which I paid peanuts for. And I rent out, so I bought it for 58,000. I rent it for 525 a month. The annual rent's just over 6,000, as you can see, and the profit's 3,000, which nothing that special, to be quite frank. But I don't really work at all for that £3,000. I'll occasionally have a bit of maintenance come up. My managing agent deals with that. And don't have to do much more than that. So I like buy-to-lets, and that's why I started off down this route, because although not that sexy, it's just does what it says on the tin. It rents out to a family. They make me £3,000 a year. You might be thinking more along the lines of what is a HMO? House of multiple occupation. Again, I don't know where your level of knowledge is, but you're basically looking at where you might rent a house out room by room, either to professionals or students. This is a friend of mine, Luigi. He bought this latest HMO here. I didn't actually know all the numbers, so I fudged them a bit. But that might be what you're looking at here, which is obviously you have to invest more capital into it, and you have to spend more on the refurb. But in terms of rent and actual profit, you can see that it earns you a lot more. So it potentially is a lot more worthwhile, and you'll need less of these to replace an income if you decide in the future to sell your business or to take time off, go on holiday, whatever it is, retire. So now we know what a buy-to-let, what a HMO is. I'm now going to talk to you quickly about turnkey versus BRRRR. No, I'm not cold. It's buy, refurbish, refinance, rent. Turnkey is basically a property where you literally just buy it, you put your money in it, and you rent it out, and then off it goes, does its thing. Buy, refurbish, refinance is a bit more hands-on. You're looking to buy a house, maybe below market value. You're going to add value through the refurbishment. You're going to then rent it out, withdraw that money, and cycle it on to the next one. Sounds like a dream. Almost sounds like it's not true, but it does happen, and I've done it a few times. And I would highly recommend looking into it as a strategy, depending how hands-on or hands-off you want to be. Here's another way of looking at it. But as you can see, the BRRR method is recycling your money. And I'll quickly show you my latest one, actually, which I bought for 50,000. I spent 17,000 on the refurb, and it now values up at 85,000. So again, as you can see, it looks like a crack den. In fact, it might as well have been. It was used as a party house. I don't know what I saw in it, but I saw something, thought that looks just a bit of me. And Then I transformed it into, although not as swanky as what Davey had done earlier, just a standard neutral buy-to-let, perfect for a family, and yeah, that's what they rent it for $575 now. So just to recap, the first things in property you should do if you want to get started is choose your strategy, work out how hands-off you want to be, hands-on or hands-off, through the use of. Do you want to go turnkey? Are you happy leaving your money in that property? Or do you want to recycle it out? Do you want to do a refurb? Because that's quite hands-on, it's a bit more stressful. Whereas if you do buy one that's ready to go, cash flows from day one, you maybe just put the effort in at the beginning and then get back to your day job, get to your business, okay? So, how much money will you need? Obviously the big question. If we take this example, I appreciate there aren't many places you can get a house that looks like that for £100,000, but if we take this example and run with it. So if you were to buy a buy-to-let at £100,000, you could obviously buy cash for £100,000, or you could put down a deposit of 25%. Now 25% is kind of the magic number when it comes to banks. If you do any less than that, if you do 20%, then they're going to charge you a much higher interest rate. And if you do more than that, obviously you drop the interest rate down, but you're not leveraging your money necessarily enough. And the reason it's 25% is because of the previous recession in 07, 08. A lot of people were able to buy houses with 0% deposits. I wish I was around then. Or wish I was investing then, I was around. But what happened was when the recession kicked in, people went into negative equity and lost them. So what they want you to do is they want you to put your own money in the deal. They want you to have your skin in the game. But you'd put down, on a £100,000 house, you put down 25 grand. You now have stamp duty, land tax. There's two things that I'm certain of in this life. Number one, we'll all die. A bit morbid. But number two is the fact that the government will tax you at every possible opportunity, and property is no different. When you go to buy a house, they think, yeah, we'll take a bit of that. So I won't go into the numbers. You can look them up online using a calculator depending on the price you buy at. But if you're buying a buy-to-let, you're going to be paying at least 3%, which is really annoying. You're going to have solicitors, which again I won't go into, but I'd always work off the basis of, get a few quotes, see what their response time is, see how polite they are they nice people, what's their attitude like, and then obviously price. I normally put price last because I'd rather spend a couple of £100 more and actually get someone that knows what they're doing. And then of course you probably should get a building survey, particularly for your first couple, and then you might start to work with builders and you'll get a better knowledge of what to look out for. So there's your acquisition costs. I won't go into it in too in depth because I don't want you to fall asleep. But £100,000, you can see all the costs, so you could buy a house for £100,000 and you'd only put in £30,000 as your money. So that's what you put in, and then of course you can rent it out from there. Now, as I've already mentioned, getting a house for £100,000 when we're sitting in central London, it seems quite unrealistic. But there's this other place, which some of you might have come from, some of you might not. There's this other place I discovered called the north of the UK. It's a lovely place, actually. I had no idea until I visited it, so I meant absolutely zero offence when I said that. I actually invest in Liverpool. So whilst I live outside of Brighton, I made the smart decision to invest 5 hours away from home in Liverpool, which of course was stupid. But the main reason why is because I can actually leverage my money, as I've said, even more. So if I was to buy a buy-to-let in Brighton, I'm putting down 62 grand. So I'm tying up that money quite quickly, versus in Liverpool, I could maybe buy a house with just £20,000. And yeah, I might get a bit more rent for the one in Brighton, but in terms of cash flow, it actually works out better, often better, to have more properties ticking over. Then when you have void periods, when you have maintenance, you've got other ones there in the background ticking away. So, we've covered quite a bit, quite quickly, and I hope you don't mind. I've absolutely peppered you with slides. But how can you get started this week? Well, here's the step-by-step. You are welcome to take a picture if you want. If not, the slides will be available. But as I've already said, you should choose your strategy. You should choose your investment area, and that might depend on The price, how close to home it is. You know, a lot of people do say to you, you should invest close to home. And to an extent, I agree. I would really love if buy-to-lets were 10 minutes from where I lived, but I just can't afford them. And actually, I'd rather get started. I'd rather start building a portfolio. And the way for me to do that is to go up north, as I've already said, for me. And at the end of the day, if I rent that property out and then I get a call to say that the kitchen's leaking or the bathroom's leaking and someone's crying down the phone to me, I don't care whether I'm 10 minutes away or 5 hours away. I haven't got the skills to go and fix a leak, so I won't be doing it. So I might as well invest where my money can be put to good use. So choose your strategy, choose your investment area, then speak to an accountant. Now, with obviously business, I know you probably have an idea of what structure you want, whether it's self-employed or limited company. With property, the government just decided to fuck it all. And it's now very, very difficult to actually invest in your personal name unless you want to be hit with a huge amount of tax. Now, it's still possible, but I would say speak to an accountant because it's actually better in a lot of instances with you guys earning good money to invest in a limited company. So, if that is your chosen route, open the limited company. And then you can arrange viewings, arrange trips, and of course, educate yourself. I'm not just saying that because I mentor people, but you can actually get free or paid advice. I know a lot of you know the value of working with someone, but there's a lot of videos out there to help guide you through this process. So definitely take the time to watch them. I've said this a few times as well, hands on or hands off, but given that you guys are probably quite busy, I'd suggest really in your mind working out, do I actually want to be hands on, or do I actually just prefer to purchase the property, sit on it, rent it out? Because based on that decision, you know, if you are hands on, you're going to do the viewings, you need to start working out your return on investments and stuff like that, which I won't go into now, again, because I don't want to bore you. But you'll go through this whole process yourself. Or the other route you have is, you know, build up your network, be hands off, use what is known as a property sourcer, and they might help you find a property without you having to get up from the comfort of your own home. And cue me. I run a business called proxyx sourcing, and if you are wanting to remain hands off, of course, these are some of the properties that I've sourced in the last month or that I am sourcing and trying to sell on to investors. Now, I'm not doing that just to plug myself. I'm also doing it to say there are sources out there. Don't just talk to me. Talk to any of the sources in an area. If you want to know some names, come up to me. I can put you in the right direction depending what area of the UK you're looking to invest. It's just a great way of staying hands off. I also run the proxyx program. So again, I'm not here to plug what I do, but if you want guidance, if you want one-to-one help, I can literally see you through the process. And I can do that, give you the confidence that you don't spend your money in the wrong way. Here's a success story of Murad. He's also a fellow YouTuber. And he came to me, wanted to buy a 2-bed house, and ended up buying a 5-bed HMO. So he did really, really well. I'm really ecstatic for him. A few other testimonials, just to say, well, to toot my own horn. But it's going really well so far, and I do genuinely believe that if you're sat here today and you want direction, I can really, really help you. So come up to me afterwards if you've got any questions or if you want to know about the program. We've got to that point in the session now where I think I've said enough. Is there any questions in the room?
What's your prediction post-COVID on the market?
Oh, yeah, $1 million question. I actually believe, well, I'll start by saying this. I went on camera on a YouTube video in mid-2020 and said how the housing market is about to crash. So whatever I say now, don't believe it. But I personally think that the market will continue on certainly for another year or two. So we do actually run, it sounds ridiculous, but the property market in the UK runs in an 18-year property cycle. So if you haven't heard of that, look it up. You can literally Google it. And every 18 years, the market actually follows a similar trend, or it has the last few times around. If we are falling in line with that, which is hard to believe, how does this 18-year property cycle know when COVID is going to hit? But if we are to follow that, we've got 1 or 2, or maybe even 3 or 4 more good years before the market starts to really downturn. Right now, the market is really hot in the sense of people paying over the odds. It's really hard to secure a property, and there aren't many coming onto the market. But what I would say is I think that might start to tail off a bit towards the end of this year, maybe next year. I just don't think we're going to see it downturn. So I've always been told, don't time the market. It's more about time in the market. So obviously don't go out and just buy anything. But if you look for the right investment and you find something, buy it at any point. And if you sit on it with the idea of 10, 20, 30 years' time, you should be all right. So, any other questions?
As a homeowner, obviously the market changes all the time. Would you suggest buying sort of an old property or a new property?
I've always been a fan of old properties because you can add more value. So new property, quite often the developer will have factored in their profit margins, or even if it's a second-hand new property, it might be the same, but there might not be much potential to add value. They do tend to, apart from Davey builds nice big detached spaces with lots of room around them, but if you go to a development in your area that build like over 100 units, they absolutely cram them in, which makes it hard to extend, add value. So I would always say if you can, go for an older property because you've got more potential there to add value.
Is there a certain percentage ROI that you would be looking to achieve on a property?
Yeah, sure.
Buy-to-let?
Yeah, so the question is regarding return on investment. What ROI percentage would I look to receive? For a turnkey buy-to-let, I'd be looking to receive about 15-16% upwards in terms of percentage. So if I was happy to leave my money in it, the ones that I have are sort of 18-19%, which is good, but it's getting harder and harder to find them. When I do buy, refurbish, refinance, obviously if I take all of my money back out of that property, then the return on investment is infinite. I know it sounds pie in the sky that you could actually buy a property and leave no money in there, but if you buy at the right price, you know the right strategy, you can. And of course, the return on investment is infinite. That last one that I showed you looked like a crack den. I left 10 grand in, and I think it will return about just under 30% return on investment. So, anyone else?
So in terms of buying a house and getting financing and stuff, I run a limited company at the moment. So at what point do I need to up my dividends or payments to be able to get approved for a mortgage?
Yeah, very good question. So at what point do you up and increase the payments yourself, like your salary, in order to be able to afford it? When it comes to buy-to-let, do you own a home?
Yes.
Yes, so if you own a home, you're already miles ahead, because when you go to a bank for a buy-to-let mortgage or a HMO mortgage, they're looking for certain tick boxes, and like home ownership is like number one tick box. Number two is, do you earn 25k salary, or do you legitimately put that through the books? Number three is, sorry, no, I'm not dodgy, I swear. You know what I mean. How much do you pay yourself? And I've lost my spot there. Number three is, are you 25 years old? Which, believe it or not, I am. So that's what they're looking for. I would say you wouldn't actually believe that even if you don't have all of them, the banks, because it's a buy-to-let and it earns its own income, they're just as interested as you as they are in actually, does this earn enough rent in order to cover the mortgage cost? Normally they want the rent to be 150% of what the mortgage cost is. One thing I haven't mentioned today, again, a lot of property investors actually do interest-only mortgages, which sounds a little bit balmy, but you want your property to cash flow as much as possible. Again, it comes back to leveraging the bank's money. You might start off thinking, yeah, I want to do repayment, but actually you will quickly find out that the best way to do property, really, not financial advice, is do interest-only mortgage payments. Going back to your original question, I would, it depends, have you got like the last couple of years worth of books? Yeah, and I would literally just have a conversation with a bank, a mortgage broker. Before you start tweaking anything, talk to your mortgage broker and just say, what do I need? What do I need to do? And as I say, they want credit history, they want your home ownership. If you've got those, they might be able to sort you out anyway. So, anyone else?
Do you tend to do a really short-term lets on your properties that you own, for example,
Yeah, that's a good question. I personally don't, but I've got a lot of friends that do. I'm fairly like simple-minded, and I just stick to like one thing, at least until I've cracked it. I probably will try it in future because there's such huge demand at the moment, especially for, staycations and that. Airbnb properties, serviced accommodation, it's known as in the property world, is doing incredibly well right now. That might peter out eventually a little bit, but it'll still do well. And that turns more into a business, but I'm not putting you off of that. It becomes more of a business, more hands-on, you need systems. I prefer to go to the route where I'll rent it out and I'll actually ask for a minimum of 12 months when the tenant goes in, and then it just moves on to a month to month after that. Okay.
So I have a question.
That's good.
How hard is it to buy buy-to-let property if you're not already a homeowner? Because that would be what I would want to do. Like, I don't personally want a house myself.
It's fine.
Anytime soon, but I'd like to invest in a buy-to-let properties and I'd like to have a portfolio in the future.
Yeah.
So will I find that difficult not being a homeowner?
No is the first answer. Just for anyone, I have mentioned that about home ownership, but actually just do whatever works for you, because there is no right or wrong answer should you own a home or not. It's a good investment tool, but equally for some people, it's like tying you down. And if you don't want that, actually it's a really good thing to do, is to actually go, right, actually I'm going to invest that money for a rent instead. In answer to your question, if you don't have one of those criteria, they're just trying to get a couple of tick boxes out of you. So if you've got good credit, if you earn good money, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys do, then you're 90% of the way there, and they'll be happy. So, anyone else?
I was just going to say with Joe, when you put it down 25%, you kind of don't care because you're just putting so much money down. So they're like, you're paying for our risk anyway.
Yeah, really good point. Yeah, really good point. Because you're putting so much skin in the game, and at points in which the market has like downturned and gone into negative equity for some people, if you actually watch the market trends, it never really drops below 20%. So that's why they go, right, want you to put 25% in, because then they know their money's always safe. So, anyone else? Or are we done? I am hanging around, all night, if you'd like any questions, and sorry, if you want me to answer any questions, then come and find me, and be happy to chat. But thank you again for having me. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed that. Was it all right?
Mate, you've done so well. Like,
Good.
I'm going to come on in a minute and just say, I'm just about to sign a lease with a cafe in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And I want to know about you. So,
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm about to come on now and speak and just say, Justin is the man. I think all these guys want to know about property, but there's so much crap out there, and Justin's legit. Legit.
Thank you.
So, no, I'm being serious.
I appreciate it a lot.
There's no one else in this industry that could just lay it out to you in simple terms.
Yeah.
As I think you're doing really, really well, because, even I'm hella busy, and
Yeah.
you're like, do this, do that, do this, do that.
Oh, good. I appreciate it a lot, mate.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Mate,
Yeah.
honestly,
So,
really, really, really happy.
good. Oh, good. Well,
So,
thank you for letting me speak.
So good.
I really appreciate
So
it. Was it all right?
so-
Yeah.
mate,
Yeah.
so good.
There was a lot of slides, I know, but hopefully it keeps people. Yeah.